And welcome to day 5, the final day of Refreshers Week. This morning I've got Susan McAvoy on with me, and we're going to be discussing mindfulness. So quite a big topic for Refreshers Week. Mindfulness is, everybody will have heard of the art of mindfulness now. It's huge in that respect, but this session today is going to be particularly focused on mindfulness for increasing learning and decreasing stress. So the beauty of that is it's coming up to that sort of time, isn't it? That exam stressor time.
Yeah.
And we're going to be discussing today a whole host of things around mindfulness, but also the course that Susan ran for us just before Christmas, and also the next course, which is going to be running from 7th of February. So excited about that. We're going to have lots of information about that today. So before we go any further, I just wanted to hand over to Susan to start us off by telling us who she is, what she does, where she comes from, all the fun stuff. So let's start off with.
Okay, thanks, Jason, and welcome everyone who's here. So Jason said I can have 40 minutes to talk about me, but I'm kidding. I'm not going to take 40 minutes. So how long have I been doing this sort of thing? A very long time. So probably about 30 years, actually. I've been studying various complementary therapies. I originally trained as an artist, actually. When I left school, I did sculpture and drawing and painting. So I've always been very sort of creative and artistic. And when I did a different degree in psychology and sociology, and then started teaching, I've sort of blended that artistic, creative approach, I guess. So I've been teaching for over 20 years. I started in universities, and then I came to Dundee and Angus, and that'll be 16 years ago in April.
Excellent.
Sorry?
What subjects have you taught in?
Psychology, sociology, mainly, but social sciences. So I teach still in the social sciences. For a while, I was in staff development, professional development. So teaching the lecturers, and also as an EIS, so that's our union, the biggest teachers union, lecturers union. So I was the EIS learning rep. So I used to hold a lot of events for teachers and lecturers, and quite a lot of stuff on mindfulness, but also social and emotional skills. So how to develop them. So I would actually describe mindfulness as a skill. And it's something that you can learn. There's a whole set of skills, and you can actually learn them. And by learning mindfulness and practicing mindfulness, you're also at the same time developing your social and emotional skills. So things like self-awareness, awareness of others, relationship building, and that sort of thing.
So you've got a lot going on then. I mean, by sound of thing, you do quite a busy life, a lot of certainly.
Oh gosh, yes, definitely busy. So having tools at your fingertips to use for, stress reduction and creating some space for yourself, and what's this new term, very popular term, self-care. Yeah. So just looking after yourself, taking care of yourself.
It's interesting you say that. There's these new words that come up, Mindfulness was one that came about a while ago.
Yeah.
I know, like you're saying, self-care, resilience.
Yes, resilience, yeah.
New normal. There's all these phrases and words, and you're like, what do they actually mean? So to you then, well, for our purposes, what is mindfulness?
Okay, so what is mindfulness? Yeah, well, like I say, mindfulness, I like to teach it and say it's like a set of skills. It's like attention training. That's one way of talking about it.
Training, I like that. Okay.
Yeah, so I teach a number of different courses, but I teach a course for teenagers, and I teach a course for little kids as well in schools. Okay. But when I'm teaching teenagers, they're a very tough gig. Well, so I never say mindfulness, and I never say meditation. I just say attention training, and it'll be things like if you're like who's in it gaming, because the boys are especially tough.
Yeah.
So if you just sort of explain that you get better at that, you get better at paying attention and stuff. So what is mindfulness? So the definition I like to use, which is super simple, is mindfulness is just paying attention to what's happening. So what's happening around you, no matter what that is. So it's just noticing what's happening around you, noticing what's going on without judgment.
Okay.
So that's a guy called Rob Nairn. So Rob Nairn set up the Mindfulness Association. And the Mindfulness Association, they work in the UK, but they work across the world, actually. But they've worked with Aberdeen University, and they have a master's degree in mindfulness.
Oh, wow. Is that quite a recent thing?
Not really. No, it's been on the go for 10 years, something like that. 8, 10 years, something like that.
Oh.
So that's Rob Nairn's, and I've written down. So John Kabat-Zinn is an American guy. He's still with us. He must be in his 8. He must be in almost 80 now. But it's really John Kabat-Zinn that's responsible for all of the mindfulness courses that we have. So what I would call secular mindfulness. Okay. So it's got nothing to do with religion. It's got nothing to do with Buddhism. It's just, like I say, a set of skills that you can learn. So John Kabat-Zinn, he developed the first 8-week mindfulness course, which is called the Mbsr, Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction course. Okay, and he's a medical doctor, and he was working with groups of people who were chronically ill. They had chronic pain that the medics had said, we can't do any more to help you. Maybe they were at the end of life, that sort of thing. So he was a Buddhist practitioner and yoga practitioner. So he put together this course that, like I say, was nothing to do with Buddhism or religion, and found by doing lots of research that was incredibly effective, even with things like pain. Okay, so physical pain actually reduced the perception of the physical pain. So John's definition is mindfulness is the awareness that emerges through paying attention on purpose in the present moment and non-judgmentally to things as they are. So we talk a lot in mindfulness about how the mind is always commenting on stuff, right? So, something good will happen, something bad will happen, and the mind jumps in and goes, oh, that was good, that was bad. And when you learn mindfulness, when you practice mindfulness, you become very aware of the self-talk and how you are commenting on just stuff that happens all of the time. So mindfulness is a lot about, can we just accept what we find? It's not about being passive, but it's about just saying, right, okay, that's the way things are right now. And where am I and what's happening? And then being able to make a judgment about what to do from that, rather than just reacting. So a lot of us just go through life and we just react to things. And can we just create a wee space where we can just kind of go, right, just even for a second or two, just to kind of go, okay, what should I do here? What should I say here?
It's to do with your thoughts then. So like you get thoughts flying in, you see them all coming in from side to side to side. And it's like, is it just being, watch them float by, but not have an opinion on them, not have, and not going with them, or that reaction thing. It's like you get all these thoughts and react constantly. So you're saying, be more passive in that, allow it just to sort of float by, and it doesn't actually need you to react. So, oh, that's a thought, but okay, thought.
Yes, well, you can get to that point where you can go, okay, there's just a thought, and obviously that takes a little bit of practice. I would say that that's a big part of mindfulness, a big part of the course. We're going to talk about that in a little bit that we deliver. But I think for a lot of people, that is a huge revelation. This idea that your thoughts are not you, and that you can actually, as you say, just watch your thoughts or observe your thoughts, or say, oh, there's a thought that's making me feel a bit icky. There's a thought that's making me feel sad, or there's a thought that's making me feel stressed.
I'm smiling.
I've got assessments due, that sort of thing.
The reason I'm smiling about it is because as much as I described it really well, I don't practice it really well because I've got a really busy head and a lot of things going on. And I'll put my hands up and say, I react to a lot of them a lot of the time. But so it's almost like I understand the theory of the process, but I find it very, very difficult to actually carry that process out. And that's what they sit down. So mindfulness, so we've given a couple of definitions, and I've said it's a set of skills. But mindfulness, so it can be a number of different things. Okay, so mindfulness can be having that awareness. Okay, so
I don't know if you've noticed this, but over the last, I would say 5 years, it's crept into the vernacular. So you hear politicians saying, oh, we'll have to be mindful of this and mindful of that. It's just everywhere. So it can be used in that sort of way. It's just like an awareness. And that's what you've got. Even though you're saying you're not practicing it, you're still aware of this fact that your head's busy and that you're reacting. So that is a level or a layer, isn't it, of awareness?
Of course.
It can be like a psychological state as well. Okay, so some people are just naturally very mindful, and that's probably because of how their nervous systems have been wired and set up as they were growing up. But like I say, it can be a set of skills that you can learn. Just
going back to what you were saying earlier on about the teenagers, and is that a lot to do with how easily distracted the teenage brain is, the developing brain, or is it to do, well, it might be a few of these reasons, is it to do with the number of distractions that they have around them, or some of the addictions that they've adopted around technology, potentially as well? Is it a combination of those things that make young people more distracted in general, or is that truth, or actually are adults just as distracted? Am I just assuming there?
No, I think you're right. I think there's when I teach sociology, I like to talk about the generations a lot. Mm-hmm. So you've got the baby boomers, you've got the Generation X and the millennials and the Gen Zs, and if you go down those generations, there'll be a difference in how, because it's just a difference in how we were brought up. It's a difference in the society that we're living in. And I think definitely younger people have more of an issue with attention. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Technology, social media. And it does actually affect your brain. So we will talk about that, this idea of... So we were talking about Carol Dweck the last time we were having a chat.
That's right. Yeah. I've actually, you sent me over a couple of bits and bobs as well.
Yeah, I still have to look for her talk, though. It is on my list. Mm-hmm. But I think when it comes to, she talks about neuroplasticity, this idea that your brain is plastic, which sounds a bit weird. Mm-hmm. I actually have a plastic brain. It's like a spongy one. I take it in for the little kids, and they love going, squeezing it and touching it. But your brain is plastic in the sense that you can change the structure of your brain. Now, this is a really important, I usually start off the mindfulness course and the introduction session talking about this and showing a TED talk actually of a woman called Sarah Lazar, who is a neuroscientist and was one of the first people to do research on this sort of thing. So what she did was she took a bunch of people who had never done mindfulness and put them in a scanner, an MRI scanner, and it scanned their brain. And then they did an 8-week mindfulness course. So only 8 weeks. Put them back in the scanner, scanned the brain again, and noticed that there was actually observable differences in the brain. So the main differences that she noticed were the amygdala. So we've got two tiny little sections in the brain called the amygdala, and that's where all of your stress hormones come from. So if you're in your fight, flight, or fear responses, that's because the amygdala has been activated. And the amygdala, after the 8 weeks mindfulness, actually, they reduced in size. They actually physically got smaller. And the front part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, so this area that's to do with learning, with making decisions, with thinking, with judging, that sort of thing, actually got thicker. It's called cortical thickening. It didn't get bigger, but it got thicker. It was more dense. So mindfulness is a particular form of practice. It's a particular form of meditation. So you get different forms of meditation. But mindfulness is about, so as we noticed in the definitions, it's about noticing things, it's about paying attention. So in a practice, for example, where you learn to, where you get the practice of, there's a thought, just let it go. Or there's the thought, and noticing what happens in the body when you have the thought. So in mindfulness, there's a particular practice, which is, say you're focusing on the breath, which would be one of the first practices to learn. So you're noticing the breath in and out, and then the next thing you're thinking about your assessment that's due. And then you practice noticing that your mind's wandered and bringing it back. Noticing your mind's wandered and bringing it back. And that's it. That's constantly, that's all you do. And by doing that, that's a bit like reps at the gym. So you'll probably like this analogy. Yeah. So when you go to the gym and you're doing your reps, you're working on a particular muscle. So when you're doing mindfulness, you're working on a particular muscle, if you like. So you're sort of strengthening the brain. So that attentional muscle gets stronger and stronger and stronger because of this noticing what's going on, bringing it back.
Yeah.
Then what happens when you're sitting doing a piece of work for college, when you notice, now listen, everyone who's doing academic stuff or hard stuff, it's hard. And your mind wanders. You try to pay attention and you start thinking about stuff, especially if your life's complicated.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of students and staff in Dundee and Angus College, their lives are busy, they're complicated, there's stuff going on. So this then enables you, when you're sitting working, you'll notice your mind's wandered off or you've started worrying or stressing, and then you can bring it back and just go, no, let's just focus on this one thing. So that ability on its own is just like, it's like gold. It's absolute gold dust.
Having that, what you're saying is having that awareness that that's what's happening as well.
Yeah.
You know, that your mind is actually wandering, you bring it back in. And I thought it was fantastic sort of description there about like what I would know is like the reptile brain, if you like, the flight response, all that. And actually, you've begun to really answer the next question I had for you, and that is, how does mindfulness actually increase learning and decrease stress? Because that's the title of this talk.
It is.
And I think you already started going into it there.
I did, yeah.
The reptile brain and that being responsible for fight and flight and stress, if you like. So that's, you kind of did start answering it there. And then you also said that the prefrontal cortex is responsible for learning.
Yeah.
And there's a difference in that after that 8-week study. So you have already started to answer how mindfulness can increase learning. So if you want to continue down that line, then...
No, that was good points, because actually as soon as you start talking about mindfulness, you can't not talk about those things, because that is basically what it is. So I mean, so on the course that we teach, I've got this lovely graph that shows the number of papers that have been published since 2001, something like that. And of course, the graph just goes up and up and up and up. So there's lots and lots and lots of papers evidencing and showing, like Sarah's Mbsr paper, what happens when you practice mindfulness. So I think the literature, the research, the science, showing that there's a link between doing a practice like mindfulness and stress reduction is now massive. So it's probably irrefutable now. And I think most people realize that. So I gave a little bit of an insight into the practice by saying, okay, so for instance, it could be just sitting just quietly, even just for 2 minutes. There's some research showing that even 2 minutes practice, maybe a few times a day, is equally as beneficial as sitting down for, say, 40 minutes or 30 minutes or something like that.
I think that's the part that, if we've got students just now, that's exactly the part that will put them on. I don't have 40 minutes, Susan. I'm sorry, I don't have 40 minutes to practice this stuff. Well, if you don't, but they do say if you don't have half an hour to invest in yourself in a day, then you don't actually have much of a life. But we can go down a different route. But I get what you're saying. 40 minutes sounds like a lifetime to sit there and have your eyes shut and wander your thoughts. Like, when I've got to do the washing, I've got to put the dinner on, I've got to
There's so much to do. There's so much to do. I was doing a session for staff a number of years ago, and she's not with us now, she moved over to Fife. She's she's one of the assistant principals, I think, Dorothy Leslie, but she was in my session, and she said at the end of it, so is this something else I have to add to my list of things to do? And a lot of people feel like that. They come to do mindfulness because they're like super busy and they've got busy brains, and then they're like, oh, I'm too busy. I can't actually do this. So
I think you're describing me and my attempt at doing your first course. Because it's true, Susan. I put my hands up. Like, honestly, guys, like I genuinely intended on doing that block. And the very first week, I had a meeting put in my calendar for 4:30, the exact start time of the course.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, it's fine, I'll jump in next week. And then something else came up the next week.
That's life.
And then by then I was like, wow, there's no point now because I've missed the first 2 weeks.
That's life.
And it's like, so when you're carving out time for these things, it's important to actually give it the time it deserves, I feel, as well. From my perspective, that's what's in my calendar. I need to be protective and ring-fence that in my calendar, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I always start off by saying, look, you're going to get out of this what you put in.
Yeah.
But I think maybe I'll just jump in here quickly and say the course that I run is not asking for 45 minutes practice a day. And that's the thing about this course, is that it's sort of it's like an in-between course, if you like.
Yeah.
It starts off with maybe 6 or 7 minutes and, maybe, 2 or 3 times a week, and then it builds up. So because of that very reason, because it's super busy.
I think it's great to get that across to people, and that's why we're having this chat. That's why we want people to explore what the block looks like, what the training actually looks like, so people do have an idea. I know week one, that's what that's all about. So Susan does like what's the word I'm looking for?
An introduction.
And that's exactly the word.
Yeah.
An introduction in week one before the 6-week course. Yeah.
Exactly.
So do you want to explain a little bit what happens in that introduction then, just to give people an idea of what to expect?
Well, a lot of what we're talking about here, I mean, the one of the first things is what I like to get over, like I said, is look, this isn't just, a lot of people think, which is why teenagers are a tough gig, because they hear the word meditation and they just think, that's for like, I don't know, middle-aged women or hippies or, it's not for me. It's not for me. And I find that what convinces people more than anything is the science. So what I like to get over is, look, this isn't just hippy-dippy stuff where you sit down and it makes you feel better for a little while. You're actually making observable changes to your brain and your nervous system. So we talk a lot about rewiring the brain and connecting it with the body. So a lot of people think mindfulness is more about the head. It's about the mind. It's about the thoughts. It's psychological. But actually, surprisingly to a lot of people, it's not really about that. It's about the body. It's about connecting with the body, with the messages and the signals that the body is sending you. Because when you feel something like stress, that's really the end of the process. Your body is stressed, and then eventually, it's super, super quick, but eventually the brain goes, oh, I don't feel good, or I feel stressed, or I feel overwhelmed, or whatever. But it all happens in the body. So the Buddha, for example, I like this expression. He said that mindfulness is about getting to know the body from the inside out. So a lot of mindfulness practices are just going into the body scans, the very famous practice where you take your attention. So the attention is like a torch, okay? So we use this analogy a lot, is the attention is like a torch and you shine it on different things. So when I'm teaching in primary schools, honestly, it's crazy. Primary schools are so busy and so noisy. So when the kids are sitting and they're paying attention and then somebody comes at the door, right, which always happens, everybody's up because this, and I go, right, okay, so what happened to your attention? And use that as an example. So your attention is something that you can move around, you can shine on different things, different topics, thoughts. But when it comes to the body, we can take the attention into the body and say, right, what's happening? Like, what's going on with my knees? Like, what sensations are here? The soles of the feet, the tummy, the back, So a lot of it is about trying to get out of your head, actually, and drop the attention into the body and just sit and just be with that sensation.
So interesting there. When you said knees, my automatically went to my knees. And I don't think I've thought about my knees all day that I'm aware of anyway. All of a sudden, like, you go, and it's like that, isn't it? So if everybody now just thinks of your big toe, I bet you've not thought about your big toe at all today, but now your big toe is there and you've got a sensation in your big toe. It's that whole thing, isn't it? I love the body scan idea. I think I came across it through the platform, is it Headspace? It was one of the apps anyway.
Yes, that's the big one.
And it does, if that's exposed more people to it, then great. If that's what they've become aware of as a body scan, then they are effectively practicing mindfulness.
Yes, they are. They are. So I think when it comes to convincing people, if it's certainly in the introduction, we cover what is mindfulness. We look at the science, because I think that's a really important thing to understand, is that when you're rewiring the brain and the body, what happens then is that you become. So there's a couple of expressions. One of them is a neck-top computer. Yeah.
A neck-top computer.
A neck-top computer. All right. So that is us, isn't it? So in Western culture, what I like to say is, in Western culture, we really are, another one that I'm not so fond of because it's a little, I don't like it, but brains on a stick. It's a bit gross. But it's like we're just heads. It's like that's really all it is. We're here, and we don't ever really think about the body or notice the body unless it's causing us some problems. You know, there's some pain or discomfort, or you're hungry or whatever. But that's massively important. It's incredibly important. And we've kind of lost that. But there's a lot of wisdom that comes from the body. And that connects in with the breath as well. Now, we were talking about the breath, and I think we'll come back to that.
Okay.
But with the body, what we can do, so a skill that we can learn is, oh my God, I feel really. So you can get to know, I'll ask people, so when you're stressed, where does it show up for you? Okay, so for me, for example, my head gets hot and it starts to kind of like almost feel like it's doing this, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
You can notice the heart rate, maybe some people's their tummy gets kind of like knotted up. So when we notice those sensations in the body, and we get better at that, and we're kind of tuning into it a little bit all of the time, what we can do is we can go, okay, there's signals. I'm feeling whatever.
Yeah.
I can use my mindfulness skills now. So it's the breath. So if you slow down the breath, breathe into the tummy, and even just 2 or 3 times, long, slow, deep breaths, you're managing your emotions, you're regulating your emotions. So emotional regulation is another big term. And essentially that's also what we're learning to do, which is why we develop our social emotional skills, because we're noticing what state we're in, and then we can actually change that, we can alter it.
But what a great set of skills. Like what a great set of skills to have at your disposal without having to go and have an energy drink or a beer or a cigarette to calm down. Because effectively people use the external when actually there might be there are some skills here that we can use which is going to achieve the same thing, but they're internal skills you carry around with you all the time. You don't need to reach for a beer to calm down. You calm your breathe, you regulate your breathing, and that will calm you down. Because it calms down the stress response. We all know that, if you're stressed, your mouth starts getting dry, for example, and the heart rate starts getting faster, and all these are responses.
And that's because your amygdala is firing out all of those hormones into your system.
And then you can do something internally to combat that, rather than taking in something externally to push it down again. Because all you're doing a lot of the time is masking those feelings and just pushing them down further with the external stuff.
Exactly.
Which at the moment might feel great, of course it will, but long term it's not going to be the most.
I mean, it's like everything, isn't it? You want a balance. You don't want to say to people, listen, once you learn mindfulness, you'll never need to drink beer again.
No,
I mean, it's having an awareness, isn't it? Right, I want that beer.
Yeah.
And actually, interestingly, when you're talking about beer or wine or food or whatever it is, it's going to increase the pleasure you get from that as well. Because instead of just, you're actually savoring it, you're tasting it, you're noticing the effect on the body, it's nice being a bit drunk sometimes.
So that's a good one I read recently. It's in a book, the Jay Shetty, I think it was, Live Like a Monk. It was just I know. They're quoting that, and it said, chew your water and drink your food was the quote.
That's a very old thing,
I was like, wow, what does that mean? And I thought about it for a while, and I thought, how often do I sit and eat my food mindfully? Not very often, because the TV's on. I've got a phone in my hand. There's 2 things straight away.
Yeah.
And before you know it, it's like driving the car to work in the morning. You get there and you don't know how you got there.
Yes.
It's like, where did my porridge go? It's gone. And I'm like, did I even chew that? Did it just go straight down? I don't, you know what I mean? And that, again, is mindfulness, isn't it? It's that ability to remain present with your...
Well, interestingly, week 1, we do a mindful eating exercise.
Oh, wow.
That's one of the, in fact, that is the first practice that we do.
And I've not done the course, folks, by the way. Like, in case you think I genuinely haven't done the course, like that was just something that I'd read in a book. But no, it's in. I mean, this is the type of training I think, you know, with exam times coming up and just teaching a little. We do exam stressor workshops in the learner engagement team. We do like a lot of other things, but to me, this is another skill. It's not another thing for the list to add onto your list, to add into your stress of things to do. To me, this is something that's going to enhance your studying.
Yes.
It's going to sit alongside it. It's going to give you a toolkit that you can go into to then help you to study. That's the way I see it, increasing the learning and decreasing the stress.
Yeah, absolutely, because you're going to become more effective. Like explained earlier, when it comes to the attention, which is really the main focus of mindfulness, your attentional muscles, your attentional skills get better. So and there's a huge amount of research now showing that if kids at school, for example, do mindfulness training, that they do academically better.
Oh, wow. The evidence is now there.
Lots and lots.
Like, for the people out there that are, you know, a lot of people need the facts, the figures, the science to commit to something, especially when the connotations of meditation and, you know, the perception of meditation things can be a bit airy-fairy, hippie, all the stuff we've discussed in terms of stigma. But actually, call it what you like, call it mindfulness, call it, you know, attention training, call it what you like.
Yes.
It's got scientific evidence behind it to say that it will make you academically better. So it's something that's going to help with the topic of exams. It's going to help our students.
It will. It does. It helps studying. It helps exams. It helps exam stress. It helps just general, you know, assessment, overload, stress, and all of that sort of thing. And partly that's because of the changes to the brain. And I think also it's about emotional regulation. Okay. So I'll maybe just move on to the... So I did a bit of research. It was published in 2018. And it was 17-18, that was the year. So as a group tutor in my role, I delivered the course to some of the students that were in that group. Yeah. Now, the sort of things they were saying were things like, so as in most colleges and classes, you've got a range of different ages of people who are there. So, and people, again, I've noticed in the time I've been in education, there's been a gradual increase every year of people who have issues to do with stress and anxiety and other mental health issues. Now that, I really want to make it clear that mindfulness is not just for people who have issues with their mental health, It's for everyone, But if you do have issues with anxiety, so there was one of the bits of feedback in the research, there was a woman who said that oftentimes when she got to the bus stop to get on the bus, that's when she had anxiety and she would often not get on the bus.
Okay.
So that's a really good example of how she used her mindfulness skills. So when she was at that point, she would then say, right, okay, this is me just, she would say it, this is me just feeling stressed, I'm just feeling anxious. That's okay. It's just a thought. It's just a feeling. How do my feet feel on the ground? How does the breath feel as it's moving in and out the body? And then she was able to get on the bus.
Great.
So it's not just about sitting down learning, it's about the whole big picture of education and learning, because as in the title, to learn, if you're stressed, anxious, uptight, chronically, you will find it difficult to learn. And there's some very complicated reasons for that. I've got a quote here. Now, I've got this book. It's a lovely book. It's a library book, and I really probably should take it back sometime. It's called The Social Neuroscience of Education. Okay. Now, at the end of this little chapter, I've got just one little sentence to read. Okay. It says, overall, stress, anxiety, and fear are all enemies of learning. They impair cortical processing, so that's just your brain, problem solving, and the underlying biochemistry of neuroplasticity. So that's what we were talking about earlier, about how the brain develops and thickens. Whatever teachers can do to minimize anxiety and stress in themselves and their students will enhance learning. And then they just say things like a warm smile, you know, a touch on the shoulder. So all of that social and emotional stuff, is incredibly, incredibly important when it comes to learning. Because your brain actually cannot process information when it's stressed. So I'll often say to students, have you ever felt stressed and someone's talking to you and it feels like there's just like a glass wall in between? You can hear what they're saying, but your brain's just not taking it in, and everyone goes, So it's that sort of situation you cannot learn when you're stressed.
So there is a state for learning. You know, there is a learning state. And this is when I go into the classrooms, you know, part of my role at the college, a lot of the time, it's like, let's go outside. Come on, let's change the environment. Let's get outside.
Very good.
Get them on their feet and have them, you know, and I like to use play. I like to use play and games as a form of like learning because I just find engagement's much better, and you can actually physically see the difference in people when they've been running about, they've got a little bit of colour on their cheeks, and that whole physiological change in the body then puts them in a better state for learning. And absolutely. So I call it active learning, you know, because absolutely, and it's the science there. It is very true.
Yes, what's the science there?
Lock yourself in an office for 6 hours and try and learn, and take no breaks, and that's not going to work. You need to take regular breaks.
It's not very efficient.
Clear your head, get the blood moving around the body, all this stuff. So it all feeds into this, you know, into mindfulness, which is absolutely brilliant. We could talk for days about this, I reckon, Susan.
Oh, definitely. But we should probably talk about the course a little bit.
Exactly. That's why I want to spend the last sort of 5 minutes on
10 minutes,
Let's really just start nailing what the course involves, and then I'll put up the link at the end so people can join up to it. So if I really focus on that now, that'd be great. So you've mentioned the introduction. Introduction is good. People can come along and see if they think it's for them. So the introduction, like I said, it's just general. We do some practice. We talk about the science. And then the 6-week course. So the 6-week course is actually a course that's been specifically developed for the workplace, So it was developed down at Oxford University. So Oxford, they also teach a course, a Master's in Mindfulness. And they teach lots of Ruby Wax. I don't know if you know her. I have. I've actually seen a lot of her stuff recently.
Yeah, she's been to the college 3 times now.
Has she really?
She has, in Gardyne Theatre. You know the good old days when there was like theatre and people used to all go in the theatre?
I've heard one of her first, was it her first book that was called Frazzled? Was that her first? Yeah,
I think it was her first one, yes. I think it was her first one. So down in Oxford, they have another mindfulness course called Mbct. So that's called Mindfulness-Based Cognitive Therapy. So obviously there's a link there with CBT. So that course was specifically developed for people with long-term recurring depression, But this is an 8-week course, like the other mindfulness courses, 8 weeks, 45 minutes practice a day, 2-hour sessions every week. So that's, as we pointed, it's quite a lot. So the workplace course was developed by people down at Oxford, just for people in the workplace, So it's the MBCT course light, if you like. So it's an hour session, an hour and a half, and you do increasing amounts of practice, so a few minutes, and then it sort of develops from there. So you're getting the main lessons that are in the MBCT course. And there's a lot of emphasis on thoughts and examining thoughts and realizing that your thoughts are just things that they just come and go. And you can, as you say, you can observe them coming and going. But you sort of build up the skills gradually from 1 week to the next. So by the end of the 6 weeks, you've really, if you stuck with it, and a lot of people do, and you've done a little bit of practice, what happens is people start to notice things like, well, they're less stressed, but maybe they're sleeping better, they're having more fun with their family. It's not just about college, because the workplace course that I deliver, we talk about, work in college. But it's about, your home life as well. For example, I always use this example. A few years ago, I had a swap course. So these are all adult returners I was teaching. And a woman there who had 4 kids, she said that in about the middle of the course, she noticed or realized, well, wait a minute. She says, I wash all the bedding in my house every day. Okay.
Every day?
Every day.
All the bedding, wow.
And everybody went, huh?
Yeah, I just double took as well.
Yeah, every single day. 4 kids, husband.
Wow.
So during the course, she just noticed, right? Because we have habit releasers, habit breakers in there. It's like just noticing what you're doing. And then she thought, okay, maybe I don't need to do that every day. So she changed it to maybe like twice a week. And she said no one noticed, okay? And she found that she was having more time with her husband, more time with her family, and everybody felt better. So it's about everyone feeling better. It's not just about you and about learning, but there's a lot of that.
That's brilliant, because sometimes, like, I know, but sometimes you don't recognise changes in yourself immediately. But someone else might go, "Oh, you're in a good mood today," or
and that happens too. That happens too, and that is something that we emphasise, that this isn't just for you. Because a lot of women, I found, when I'm teaching the staff, a lot of women feel guilty about taking time for themselves. This is an interesting thing. And so understanding that this isn't just about you, it's about everyone in your life, because it will affect everyone in your life. Okay, so there's a 6-week course. You come for an hour and a half, and then we've got this book, okay? So I know you can't read that because it's back to front. But it says, Mindfulness, a practical guide to finding peace in the frantic world. Okay, it's green and yellow. You'll get all the details if you sign up. They're in the library. You can get one out for free. You can use it. There's audio versions if you need them. You're supported by, so I work part-time now and I have my own business. So I teach mindfulness, I teach Reiki, I teach lots of things. And there's resources on the website that support you during the course. So there's videos to watch each week. If you're interested and you like the research, that's there supporting. So the course is supported by research. You're understanding exactly why you're doing the practice, and so on. And there's lots of time for talking. But the feedback, and you can talk about that as well, but the feedback from the first course we did, in fact, every time I've done a course, the feedback has been excellent. But this time I was a bit more careful, and I captured the Teams chat and so on. And there was so many examples in there, wasn't there, of students saying, oh, I feel much better now. I'm sleeping better. I'm not as stressed. I'm noticing things around me. Life is just generally more fun.
It was also positive. Like, just look through it. It was all the themes you were just discussed a couple of minutes ago. All those sort of enhanced benefits. Like, all the stuff that the science is saying was being reiterated in the comments, which was amazing. Seriously, this isn't just like a plug or a sell. This is actually what I'm seeing coming through, And in terms of how many people on the courses and how many people spaces are available on this time round?
Well, I think anything up to 20. 15 to 20 is an ideal number. It's not too big, it's not too small. And if there's a big number, we can use the breakout rooms. There's a lot of discussion because we learn from each other. That's another good thing about the course. There's a lot of chat, there's a lot of discussion. It's kind of fun. There's PowerPoints, but we learn from each other. So somebody will say, oh, when I was doing my practice this week, I found this difficult. Somebody will say, so did I. Or this worked for me. So we're building a very nice community as well at the same time.
That's what peer-to-peer learning is really powerful as well.
Absolutely.
Times-wise, it's a Monday evening.
It's a Monday, 4:30 to 6. And it's through Teams, so you can do it from home. It's nice and easy. You can have everything you need, make yourself comfortable.
And that kicks off on the 7th of February, Monday the 7th.
Which is a Monday, So Monday evenings.
Monday evenings. The first one, like I said, is going to be the introductory session.
Yeah.
So anybody that's even slightly interested in this, I'd highly recommend you come along to at least the introductory session and tune into that call on Teams and see if it is for you. And if from there you don't feel that it is or whatever, no harm.
Absolutely.
You know, that's
Absolutely.
You just don't do it next week.
Yeah.
So, you know, leave it where it is.
Yeah.
But definitely come to that introductory session, because that's where you're going to find out exactly what's going to be involved in the next week. So like a breakdown of what to expect and how it's
and there's a certificate. So you get a certificate as well, which is it's great for CVs, for example. A lot of employers are looking for these soft skills. So it's really, really very valuable in that sense as well. So there's a LinkedIn, is it? No, not LinkedIn, wrong thing. Eventbrite, that's it. Yep. There's an Eventbrite link that you can join as well.
And that is just been put in the comments down below this video. It's down there, so it's now live on Eventbrite. So you can click on that link in the comments just below at the moment, and you go straight into Eventbrite and you can register from there. You'll be asked a few questions about, you know, what's interesting you in this course, and just get a little bit of fact finding on our end to start off with. But yes, all free. Textbook is provided. The only thing we need is your time on a Monday evening and a computer to log into Teams. That's all you'll need.
Yeah, I mean, commercially, I deliver this commercially for the college, and companies around here pay a lot of money for this course for their staff. So the fact that it's free, it's free, but actually it's not free for everyone, and it's a valuable thing. Yeah.
I know you said you got something to put in your CV at the end of it. You're putting that time and commitment in there, which is, you know, it's like 10 hours total, roughly, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, that's
you're given that time, so you get the reward, not just in the skills that you're going to be taught that's going to help you through, but you also get the certification as well as a certificate at the end, which is brilliant. Well,
win-win.
right up to the end, Susan. Honestly, I know we didn't get speaking much about breathing today, but that's a topic that will get you back on.
Yeah, I think we'll maybe do a breathing course at some point soon. Yes.
Because we talk about breath work in mindfulness, but we don't actually teach how to breathe, because we should just know how to breathe. But my eyes have been opened massively in the last couple of days as Susan sent me some stuff on nose breathing. So I'm not going to say any more than just that, but if you're interested in nose breathing, there's loads of stuff out there that you can
Mouth taping, which is always an interesting topic. It took me off for a while, but I've been mouth taping for 2 years now. Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
I'm going to give it a shot running in the forest with my mouth taped shut.
Oh yeah, forest breathing.
And it's music to my wife's ears. Apparently, she's like, "You're going to tape your mouth shut."
Oh yeah, it helps with snoring. Oh, your wife will love it.
No,
She'll love it.
I mean, me just generally talking. That was just to cut off some of the air, I think. You know.
Oh, that's so funny.
So, Susan, just as we finish and wrap up, I have to ask you, as I've been asking a lot of my guests this week, random question. If you could have one superpower and one superpower only, what would it be and why?
What would my superpower be?
Yeah.
I do this little thing where I can't remember. I'm like you. You know, I read and watch loads of stuff and have done for a long time. But I heard someone saying that when they're walking down the street, what they do is they send little lilac packets of like just good energy to people.
Oh wow!
And I love that, and I do that sometimes. So I would love it if I could just send that little kind of package to someone, and then just immediately they would notice it and feel good, you know, or just smile, and people would just feel good. So that would be my superpower.
That's brilliant. That's unique. You know, no one has said that this week. Most people want to fly, but Susan wants to send out positive energy beams to whoever walks past. I love that. I love that idea. Okay, well, I'll leave it there, Susan. That was a great chat this morning.
It was. Enjoyed that, Jason.
This will go live on the channel just now on the Facebook page. It'll also stay on there, but we will also put it up onto the Learner Engagement YouTube channel. And again, all the links have been provided below this chat at the moment. So everything's in the comments. Okay, Susan, I'll leave you there. Take care.
Okay, Jason.
Have a wonderful day.
Have a great day. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.